knowing your maturity level, because if you don't know where you are not going to be able to get where you need to go, because if you don't know where you are, any road will lead you there.
Very good advice. All right, Edward, I would like some bad advice. You've worked in the SOC before. What's bad advice for a SOC workflow?
Yeah, I would say a bad device is use ChatGPT to vibe code like 100 new detection rules and put them in production to help bridge the MITRE attack TTP gap.
Oh, so pretty much let AI go loose on your SOC. All right, Jason, give me some worse advice.
I would say to double down on that, it would be a SOC analyst, a tier 3 analyst, supposed to be professionals in the industry, taking that ChatGPT advice and just pushing it out to the executives and the board as if that was the analyst's note that they need to drive investments and also threat hunting. Very bad idea to do.
That is a great bad idea. I love it. Let's start the show.
Get ready. It's Super Cyber Friday.
Welcome, everybody, to Super Cyber Friday. My name is David Clark. I'm the host and producer of the show, and today's topic is hacking SOC workflow, an hour of critical thinking of evolving security operations. Our guests are Jason Shockey, who just saw CISO over at Cenlar FSB, and Edward Wu, the CEO and founder of DropZone AI. What do you know? DropZone AI. They're our sponsor for today's episode. They've been a phenomenal sponsor of the CISO series, and we'd love having them back again. All right. Lots of ways to participate. Well, the chat room, you've probably discovered it already. Also, submit how to improve your SOC workflow. Just do a hashtag 10P for 10% better tip. Just any small tip. It can be tiny, but just any small tip to improve the workflow. Join us on video at any time, but just typing "Bring Me On" all in caps, and our producer Josh will do the best to try to get you on if you've got a question or would like to make a comment live on video. For everyone else, you can ask a question for our guests. So if you look on the little icons up on the right where the chat room is, there's these two speech bubbles with Q's in them. Just click on that. Go ahead and ask a question. We'll get to as many of those as we can. And hopefully we'll get lots and lots of questions from you. And if so, we want you to vote for your favorite question as well. Just see our schedule. Good advice, bad advice, worst advice. Let's get your 10% better tips on how to improve the SOC workflow. We will play public interest. We have a brand new game called Category Clash. It's got a different game mechanic than we've played before, so you'll like it. And then we'll have last questions answered, and then our meetup. So stay exactly where you are. And then what we do is we roll over into our meetup, and we have face-to-face time. And if you've never come to one of those, I want you to come to one because I'd like to spend time chatting with you. So please join us. Our next show will be in 2 weeks because we have Martin Luther King Day, long weekend. We usually don't do a show then. So January 23rd, hacking past mistakes, an hour of critical thinking about what we can do better in 2026. I love this. It's going to be fun. If you've never made a mistake before, don't come. But if you have, we want to see you there. And then stick around for our meetup that I mentioned just moments ago. All right, let's get to our very, very first question. We're talking about SOC workflows, and you can't mention SOC workflows today if you don't mention AI. So I want to hear, what are the objections? And I'll start with you, Jason. What are the biggest objections to using AI in the SOC? And by the way, you guys kind of alluded to it in your worst advice at the beginning of the show. Jason?
Biggest objection is, for most people, is unverifiable AI, where you can't actually prove with the human in the loop that whatever AI source is coming from, that it's true. So I think there's also some pieces where auditability, how can we actually prove that AI is an actually extension of our SOC workforce? That's a big objection as well.
All right. Good point. And what would you say to the very same question, Edward?
Yeah, the biggest objections we have heard is, does it actually work? I have an engineering background, so a lot of times developers, when they look at AI coding tools, they have the same question, like, is it going to take me longer to write this piece of code or make this piece of code change with or without AI tools? Because there are certain tasks where the AI tools are actually creating, vomiting a lot of bad codes that will take a developer much longer to clean up. But there are also cases where, vibe coding and AI coding tools actually can be an acceleration with regards to the development. And I think SOC and security workflows, alert investigation is exactly the same. A lot of the times, the question really boils down to like, does this technology or this type of technology work well enough in my environment to actually save me time versus distracting me and causing me to spend more time on something I could have done myself within 5 minutes.
By the way, so I think you hit the nail on the head with that, especially how you summed it up at the tail end. Is that, and by the way, we've been hearing this for years because I remember the Ponemon Institute put this out years ago saying, because it was sold to us by companies of you add some type of automation, some type of AI, and you will reduce your workforce, which was BS. And then the Ponemon Institute put out a piece that said, oh, our study shows is you have to hire more when you start to automate. So everything everybody wanted was literally the opposite. But let's get to, all right, you've worked in the SOC, both of you, and you're starting to improve workflows. Without AI, we always try to look to improve it. So what has actually worked? And also, everyone kind of feels like a special snowflake, like what you referred to, Edward. What is working for people, and what I'll ask it two ways. What are small things you can chip away at? Like, this is easy, slap this on right away. It'll eliminate this tiny problem. And then what are the things like you really should spend the time and effort doing this, because once you get over this mountain, the payoff is phenomenal on the other side. So your thoughts?
Yeah. So what's really working, I would say, a lot of times involves basic triage and investigation of very common security alerts. Abnormal logging alerts. I'm sure everybody has looked at, hundreds, if not thousands of them over the years. The approach and the technique required to really get to the bottom of those alerts or phishing alerts, unusual execution alerts are pretty standard. And from our experience working with hundreds of enterprises and organizations, AI-based technologies can already do a very good job investigating those alerts. What's not working yet is full autonomous SOC. We haven't seen a single case where you can have an AI agent end-to-end from investigation to forensics to incident response, fully automate the SOC process. Anybody who tells you, hey, they are building an AI SOC analyst that can take care of tier 2 and tier 3 work is delusional. And this is where we have heard, have seen vendors talking about lights out SOC or full autonomous SOC. And from my perspective, we're still many, many years away from it, from that.
All right. Very, very good point. Jason, what has been your experience?
So I think it's short-term sacrifice, long-term gain. If you spend the time to create the prompts correctly, to vibe code, right, to use that buzz phrase, to put the things in place that Edward was talking about and what drop zones seems like they provide, that will save you time. So there's 3 big things that I'm looking at is like faster in all of these areas, but it's triage, alert, and then automatic disruption. So can I actually triage faster, which Edward talked about? Can we actually get those, real-time alerts faster? Because I want a machine to handle the faster they come in, I need another machine to actually handle that. And then the automatic disruption for those known attacks, just automatically stop it and then let me know about it.
Yes. I mean, and that makes a good point. By the way, get your questions in. We want to see your questions for it. And if I hadn't put it before, you can also, here, let me put this, I'll just put it at the bottom of the screen. That'll stick there. You can join us right here. Join us on 123 for hacking past mistakes. You can click that register button. That'll be there for you to check out. You can click that button and register for the event in 2 weeks, and it will not take you out of this. So you'll still be participating in this and not in any way fall out of it. All right. So, and again, please get your questions in here. So I want to hear some actual things that you've done. Edward, with Drop Zone AI, what have you done with your clients? What has worked that has been that kind of eye-opening moment that oh, this is really improving the SOC workflow?
Yeah, a couple of different areas, I would say one of the biggest ones is really allowing security teams to look at a lot more alerts. Um, when we think about a typical SOC, most of these SOCs are only have the capacity to look at the criticals and the highs. Frankly, most of the time we have been working with security teams who struggle to have enough capacity to look at the mediums and the lows. But
Mhm.
at the end of the day, I think nobody could argue that a lot of real attacks and incidents started off with mediums and lows, and then when attackers get to the right hand side of the kill chain, they eventually trigger maybe one of the criticals and highs. So expanding the ability to look at the mediums and lows has been a great win within our early adopters and customers. Another component is for smaller teams. We have definitely seen opportunities to leverage AI augmentation to get to 24/7 coverage
Mhm.
without hiring, minimally 5 people across 3 different continents. So that's another one where allowing kind of small technical security engineering or security analyst teams to achieve this 24/7 coverage without leveraging external resources or hiring people offshore. And then the final element is mean time to respond. Typically, when we work with security teams, we look at, hey, how long does it um, take the SOC to really analyze and respond to threats? You might be shocked that on average, a typical security alert sits within the alert queue for somewhere between 60 to 90 minutes. And that's kind of like a wasted opportunity where attackers can run freely within the environment. Um, one of the benefits
So
of
let's
software,
pause on that. Let's pause
yeah,
on that for just a second, because that is a really key point. Is that you may have a good staff, but if you can't respond fast enough, it's no longer an effective SOC. So that is just right there, improving the workflow. Having something look at it before that 60 to 90 minutes, even if it's not perfect, at least it's being looked at and you're dealing with it, in some way. Yes,
yeah,
because
absolutely.
that's a
Because
good point.
attackers are like leveraging more automations, right? Like we have heard stories of different incidents. I think for the Coinbase incident, the attackers moved within minutes.
Mhm.
So having security alerts sitting in the queue is not doing anybody any good. And like you said, having a first layer of investigation and triage and potentially even automated containment actions being performed uh, can drastically reduce the blast radius of any potential breaches. And we all know, like, we have lunch breaks, we have
Mhm.
vacations, we have staff meetings, and like very few people is sitting there just waiting for an alert to show up. We all
Yeah.
have other important things and other projects that we are working on.
Yeah, one nice feature that we have within our environment is automatic attack disruption. And that automated disruption that I was talking about earlier, we have seen in the past, like you're saying, Edward, if something's sitting in a queue, we don't have that problem anymore because we're in the cloud and we get to leverage something like Microsoft offers for automatic attack disruption. And we've seen some of our pen testing get interrupted, which we have to go back out and let them know, hey, we want to get what we paid for. Continue your pen testing. We'll kind of, subdue the automatic attack disruption for just now. So.
That's very good. All right. Let me remind everyone good question. By the way, Peter Gregory makes a very good point that we've heard this before. Let me show this on the stage again. In classic pre-AI, pre-SOAR, that by the way, I hear SOAR is going away now. SOC environments, I cringe when organizations attempt to automate what they don't yet know how to do manually. I get, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Edward, that people think that automation will just fix um, problems. But as we've heard many times, if you have a bad process, you will just accelerate the bad process. It's not going to fix that. Um, Let me ask, when you are working or looking at a SOC, how do you know if you've got bad processes? Like, what is it we're looking at? Like, how do we audit ourselves here in a situation like that?
Yeah, I think a lot of this comes down to back to the fundamentals, right?
Hmm.
Number one is like, are there clear measurements of the success criteria for the SOC? Like, what alerts are we actually paying attention to? What is the MTTR, MTTD of different alerts? Is there a place where there is a feedback loop at the end of the investigation, right? Sometimes at the end of the investigation, you discover, hey, this detection doesn't really make a lot of sense. And is there like feedback loop back into detection engineering? Are there feedback loop back into security data fabrics or security data engineering? Like it seems we're missing a big chunk of logs over here. So regardless if you are using AI or humans, if there's no logs, there's very little you could do in terms of investigation and analytics.
By the way, I like what Aman Sood here, kind of alluding to what you were just talking about. It's mean time to clarity. It's like, really, it's like mean time to clarity means, is this something I have to worry about or not? You know? And that, I think, speaks to the value of a SOC. The more that a SOC can get an answer to MTTC, I think the better here. Yes?
Yeah, there's a lot of acronyms. I know, like for us, we also came up with this thing called mean time to disposition, right? Which is kind of similar to mean time to clarity. Because when you think about MTTRs, that assumes you kind of responded and contained the whole thing. But what's a more important or a key important kind of timestamp before that is when you have clarity or disposition on is this a true positive or false positive? Do we need to, escalate it to tier 2 and tier 3s, or we can close it off and move on?
All right. We're going to play our next game right now. So let's throw it up there. Let's go.
Do you know what others are thinking? On the public interest.
All right. This, for those of you who don't know, we now play our game through Kahoot. So if you look at the icons on the right next to the chat window, it should be either the last one or the second last one. It looks like a little game icon. Click on that. I'm clicking on it myself. And then you're going to type in this code here, 875-4682, and then enter your name. Whoops. Did I do that wrong? 875. Oh, I wrote 975. That's not right. 875-4682. And then I'll put my name in. I have not seen these questions, so I'm playing along too. So people, get your names in here. That is you, Edward, and Jason. Edward, I see you're in there. Jason, get your butt in there. Unless you put in some name like Viper. I don't know. There, Jason's in. All right.
I am in here.
Okay, cool. I'm going to do a 10-second countdown, making sure that everybody is in. And then, by the way, this one, we're just playing for bragging rights. Our next game, there will be an actual prize. We'll show that in a moment. But all right, here's your 10-second countdown. So get in. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Everybody get in. 4, 3, 2, 1. We're going to start now. Let's go. Hit that start button, Josh. Let's do this. All right. Remember, you want to get it correct and you want to do it quickly. That's how you win here. So correct first, then quickly. But by the way, it doesn't always go in the same format as what you see on the screen. So look at what you're clicking on in your window. Which term has the most monthly search queries? Operations Center or Security? Security Operations Center. I said it in the wrong order. It is security. Thank God that was the correct answer. All right, I got that one right. I'm assuming Edward, Jason, did you get it right?
Yes.
All right, good job. Rob is in the lead right now. All right. Well, a lot of people got the one right. Let's see how we do the next one. By a whopping margin. Look at that. Tenfold over the others. All right. Let's try the next one. Obsessed crew spreadsheet. I have made my answer. You have 10 seconds, by the way. I think everyone got in. The correct answer is spreadsheet, and most people got it. So most people are doing quite well right now. So we're 2-2. Let's see. I am still not on the top 5 here. Jeff C is kicking butt right now. All right. Bia is what the highest. So spreadsheet by a significant margin. All right. We got 2 more. Operational constraints suffering. People are answering quickly. I blew that one. I said constraints. Did not do well. My answer streak has lost. Rob is in the lead. Well, none of us are on the leaderboard here. Oh, Jesus, look at that. Wow. Last one. All right, I just guessed as we're all doing that way. And I blew it. It was overflow. Only 4 people got that one right. All right. Oh, I said stack, which was the worst one. All right, who came in third? Mao, congratulations. 2 is Rob. We should actually bring the music in. I know it has some music here. 4 out of 4, Rob got. Only one. Jason, that you, Jason? Oh my God. Way to go. I'm very impressed. All right. Well, you can drop this. Jason, 4 for 4. By the way, as you know, we say it before, going 4 for 4 in this game is not easy. And it's clear you're the only one who actually did it. So congratulations to you.
Thank you. And thanks for playing, everybody. I appreciate it.
Yes.
Go get some water. Hit the sidelines.
Yeah. And thank you, everybody, for losing, I think. By the way, we don't have any questions from our audience. Audience, get your questions in. All right. I'm going to now ask you, get your questions in. By the way, register for the event we're having in 2 weeks while you're at it. I'm going to ask you, Edward, a question about DropZone. So you guys have been in this marketplace for a while. It is a competitive space. I've been talking to a lot of your competitors as well. So 2 questions. What are you doing to help out the SOC? And I'd like to know, like, what do you think is your unfair advantage? Why is DropZone the better solution here for doing just that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think a number of things with regards to the unfair advantage. We were the first mover of the space. We actually came out of stealth in Black Hat 2023, actually way before most of our competitors actually started to show up. And because of that, our biggest unfair advantage is having the most mature product as well as having the most in production deployments. At this moment, we are already processing security alerts live in production from over 200 enterprises. And ultimately, the way I think of it, as an engineer, anytime you build an autonomous system, whether it's AI SOC analyst, whether it's autonomous driving, the technology maturity really depends on ultimately the knowledge. The more environments you run it in, the more you can learn from those environments, and overall makes the product even better. At this point, we are the only startup in our space with a public ungated test drive where anybody on the internet can immediately get access to our product to click around and play with it by filling out 3 questions without even talking to a salesperson. And we're also the only vendor in our space with full product documentation. So we really pride ourselves on transparency because my experience building AI security products historically is there's a lot of snake oil. It's really, really hard for any practitioner to understand like what's real and what's smoke and mirrors. And our philosophy to this is being transparent. So when you have full product documentation, I think it's a lot more difficult to fake those, and it's a lot more difficult to fake a public ungated test drive.
And from talking with you, because I've interviewed you a number of times before, Edward, you have a far more realistic view of how AI operates in the SOC rather than trying to oversell it like we've heard historically. So that's what I've kind of very much appreciated with your approach. All right, I'm going to put up this poll right now. Here's on the stage. Please go. Here's the thing. We do this for our sponsors and for our audience as well. We like to make connections. And we think what they're doing over there at DropZone AI is very cool. So what I want you to do is go ahead and respond to the poll. If you would like a nice warm connection, whether you say yes or of course, we will make that connection. So go ahead, answer the poll. I'm going to keep that up there for another minute or two. And I noticed that we have some questions. And by the way, that's going to be up for the entire time that we're here. So go ahead and answer the poll. If not now, later. But why not answer it right now? So go ahead and respond to it. Oh, we got 6 people have jumped in already, Like 7. Awesome. Keep it coming. Keep it coming on in. This is like a telethon. We're gonna hit our numbers. We're gonna fill up the thermometer. Let's fill it up for the fine people over at Dropzone. All right, let me ask this first question. What we'll do, and here I'll come back to this. I'm gonna close that out here. What's one thing your SOC here? Actually, I'm sorry, I got to show it on the stage from a Monsoon. What's one thing your SOC tried to automate, but that turned out to be a mistake? I'm going to start with you, Jason, on that. That's a good question. I think we start with our eyes quite big. Yes, Jason?
Very much so. Everybody sees AI. It's been around for what, 50 years, probably more. I view AI as the next technology that I can leverage. Right? Steve Jobs says a computer is a bicycle for your mind. So how can I use AI to go faster in my space? How can I make my job easier through translation? So the thing that we tried to automate, I would say, is orchestration. That pipeline that Edward hinted at a little bit ago, from alert to actual disposition, that is near impossible to automate. You have to have that human in the loop. Now, for some items, you can, the low hanging fruit, you can, but when it comes to tier 2, tier 3 interaction, there's no way to automate that I can see.
What about you, Edward? And think about historically before you even started Dropzone AI.
Yeah, I think generally, whether it's like with playbooks or AI, ultimately both of those are just different tools you can leverage to automate things. With any type of automation, I think they really start to fall apart when you yourself don't know how to do it, or you only know how to do it maybe subconsciously, but you cannot describe how you do it. I think those like anything that's very contextual, anything that requires very delicate judgment calls, I feel like those are very difficult to automate, regardless if it's using playbooks or large language models.
What was I channeling Jerry Lewis? I mean,
I saw that.
I don't know. What are you referencing? I was channeling Jerry Lewis. Dutch. I'm sorry. Good point, Edward. I'm sorry. I got distracted by Dutch's comment about Jerry Lewis there for a second. All right. Let's go to, I have more questions here. By the way, get to your questions in. All right. This alludes to something that I was talking about earlier, Edward, and I definitely want your answer to this one first. How can we easily adopt an automation approach to our, quote, unique SOC procedures? Everyone thinks they're a special snowflake. Everyone does, right, Edward? So I'm sure everyone comes to you and goes, I don't know if you can help us out. We're in a situation like this and this. Like, have you heard that line before? Yes, Edward?
Yeah, absolutely. And I do think to some extent every SOC or every organization is an unique snowflake, right? Frankly, we haven't run into two SOCs that have the exact same security stack. Just look at IT and security tooling. The number of permutations out there is pretty wild when you think about there are like close to 3,000 security vendors, and you can have all sorts of permutations between SIEMs, EDRs, and stuff like that. But also, I think another element of SOC procedures really is related to the organizational preferences, policies, and practices. And this is why for a lot of or some of the better AI, AI SOC technologies and vendors, a key component of implementation and deployment involves adaptation. Like you can hire the best human SOC analyst on the planet to your organization, and I can bet you a lot of money that that person is not going to be 100% effective
because they're humans.
Yes, and they cannot read minds, right? Every organization is different. The best human security analyst on the planet still needs time to really adapt to each environment. So when it comes to like adaptation, the process is actually very similar between a human analyst or an AI analyst. A lot of that involves like reading historical case notes, reading up historical like Slack messages or stock chat messages, reading up on like existing wiki pages, any policy documentations. At the end of the day, again, regardless of it's AI or human, we cannot read minds, and having access to organizational context, whether it's in the form of case notes, wiki pages, historical chat messages, or even flowcharts. All of those can help with the adaptation process.
Jason, do you think you're a special snowflake?
No, because no one can escape physics. We're all bound by the electromagnetic spectrum, right? So the electrons and the light and the radio waves that everybody uses to communicate or send ones and zeros on, or you can put a can on one end and a can on another and then the string between them. However you're communicating, the attackers can't get outside of that, and neither can we. So when I think about this in through critical thought and think about first principles, okay, how can attackers get into my network? Well, they follow the cyber kill chain. There are known attack TTPs that MITRE ATT&CK lists. So maybe it's the way I think of things is, okay, my quote unquote nuanced existing SOC workflow is not so nuanced. And that's why I started with maturity. If I know where I am and I know where I need to go, how can I actually get there? That's where I think AI can be leveraged to quickly learn all that the existing kind of rules that we have. And Edward, to your point, the past, the historical evidence, there's no way that a human can do that. So maybe this is a question: how does Drop Zone look at, let's say, how does it align to the MITRE ATT&CK TTPs? Everybody thinks they're, some special thing, but hey, there are doors and there's windows. There's only a certain number of ways you can get in. Now there might be a onesie twosie +1 +2 that they might be able to with the 0-day or something like that. But how does it align to known attack techniques?
Good question. Edward?
Yeah, so MITRE ATT&CK framework itself, I think, is pretty well defined, that there's not a lot of rooms for, let's call it like subjective or judgment calls. I think MITRE ATT&CK framework has really bounded the attack vectors in space. What's more challenging and varies across organizations is the relative importance of different TTPs. So the way I think of it is pretty much all attack activities. And by the way, I personally contributed to a big chunk of the network side of the MITRE ATT&CK framework. And I think it is very comprehensive. But what's important for most security teams to realize is everybody should have their own heat map for the MITRE ATT&CK framework, because different techniques, different TTPs actually have different business impacts to your organization. So the framework is the same in my mind across different organizations, but the weighting on each TTP actually varies. And frankly, for a lot of security teams, building up this MITRE ATT&CK framework heat map for your own specific organization, in my mind, is a very worthy exercise, because that allows you to start thinking about, how do I prioritize threat intelligence? Where should I be prioritizing with regards to my limited SIM storage? Where should I be prioritizing based off of detection engineering? Right, there's are always more detections we can write. There's almost infinite number of detections, but nobody has infinite budget. So I do think MITRE ATT&CK heat map oftentimes can capture in reality a lot of the threat modeling that the organization does, and can serve as a guideline for prioritization.
Right. I want to throw this question up from Andrew Aiken, and I like this, and both of you, I want you to jump in on this. Which technologies or vendors are the easiest to provide automations for? There must be just some that are simply happy to integrate and some that are painful to integrate. Edward, you've probably had experience with this, yes?
Yeah, we have built a lot of integrations over the years. I think there's different components of difficulty when it comes to providing integrations. Sometimes, frankly, getting an
Explain the
NFR.
components to us.
Yeah, so the first step is you need to get an NFR license. I would say some security vendors are more welcoming than the others. So that's kind of alone is number one. Number two is
Excuse my ignorance. What is an NFR license?
NFR license are not for resale licenses that security vendors give to each other to help each other build integrations, right? Because it's very hard to build integrations when you don't have a live instance of the other technology. But it's unrealistic for anybody to buy a copy of everything. So that's kind of where it's kind of a process between security. kind of a handshake process between security vendors where they will give each other NFR licenses to facilitate integration development. So that's kind of one component of difficulties. The second component is the availability of APIs. Believe it or not, a lot of very well-known security vendors do not provide APIs for everything that the users can see within the product UI. So that obviously makes it very difficult to build integrations when a subset of metadata is like hidden. So that's number two. The number three actually comes down to the structuredness of the data and how they structure data. I would say in my experience, when it comes to like which integration or types of APIs are the easiest for AI agents or large language models to utilize, the more structured the APIs are, the better. So as you know, there are certain SIEMs that have like common data schemas and stuff like that. So those are generally much easier to work with than SIEMs that just take arbitrary JSON blobs, because the structuredness of the data directly corresponds to the quality and the difficulty of generating queries.
All right, Jason, I throw it to you. You're working with a suite of apps. You're always looking for integrations. What plays nicely, what doesn't?
Yeah, it's first I was looking at Dropzone's website. There are a lot of integrations, so thank you for doing that. I know that's a lot of work because it gets to my point with this is tech debt, where I inherited a certain amount of tech debt at the current company that I'm at. It's difficult to find, like you're saying, the API availability. And then you reach out to a vendor, hey, we're looking to modernize the application. How can we work together? Oh, we're not doing that. What do you mean we're not doing that? We are. So, okay, there's the first friction point. The second point, like you were talking about, is the data structure, where that was two elements that I picked up on that you were talking about that relate to tech debt. So if there is too much tech debt, you cannot get where you need to go. You either need to replace or build yourself. Now, building yourself, like Edward, you were talking about earlier, there's an infinite number of kind of ways to threat hunt or ways to look at attacks, but then there's not an infinite budget. We're constantly looking at that very finite budget, and it seems to be reducing. So getting those integrations is even much more difficult. So it's tech debt through API availability, tech debt through data structure, and then tech debt through finite budgets.
Very good. All right, I got some more good questions. Here, let me do one thing. If our audience hadn't do this, let me throw up this call to action. If you haven't registered for next week, I'm throwing that right in your face. Join us on 123.26 for Hacking Past Mistakes. Again, you are allowed to not register if you've never made a mistake in the past year. If you have made at least one mistake, you are required to register. So that's our policy. Go ahead and register for our next event that is happening soon enough. And also, don't forget, let me throw this up here too. If you haven't answered our poll, there it is right there. Oh, lots of people are voting. Wants a nice introduction. Go ahead. If you haven't voted yet, or not voted, essentially want a nice introduction to nice people over at Dropzone, please go answer the poll right now. Go ahead and do that. I'll throw it again up at the end of the show. All right. And we are, you know what? Let me get one more question in and we'll go to our next game where there will be a prize. It's a new game and it's got a new game mechanic to it altogether. This next question is, this is an interesting question. I don't know how to take it. So I'm going to throw it to you, Jason, first. How important is it for a modern SOC to build workflow and process that protects against insider threats?
Oh, that's a very good question.
This is a good question.
Yes, it is.
How do you take this one, Jason?
Yeah, I think insider threat is something, based on the question and the person that asked it, Gary, it looks like. Yes, insider
Gary
threat
Longsign.
is
I'm sorry, I didn't say his name. Thank you, Gary Longsign.
Always existent in the environment. We're lucky enough to be in the cloud, so we can leverage a lot of the insider risk, data loss prevention features that are within the cloud native security tools. So we get some user entity behavioral analytics or UEBA from those tools, which is great. Now taking that and putting it into the SIEM, which it sounds like Dropzone AI can do or help with, that is a game changer because I think it's insider risk is one of those areas that most companies never even consider. And then a very select few actually have an insider risk program that's documented with the policy in a charter, and then actually procedures to go about, okay, if there is some sort of insider risk that is triggered, one, can you even see it? Do you have the telemetry in your environment to know that it's occurring? Then how that workflow to push it up, it would definitely be missing. I would say easily 95 very high, 95% of companies do not even consider insider risk.
That is, yeah. Well, that's why there's a whole freaking industry around it
Yeah.
now. Edward, what do you say to this? Like, how do you pay attention to it? The malicious and the non-malicious, for that matter.
Yeah, yeah. In a previous life, I built hundreds of detection rules. So love looking for insider threats because in my mind, every organization should be looking for insider threats. The reason being, we all have been told assume breach, right? The difference between attackers getting in through a 0-day and insider threat is actually very similar. Insider threat primarily focus on the right 3 or 4 tactics within the kill chain or the MITRE attack framework, right? Insiders don't need a 0-day to get in. They don't need persistence. They don't need to figure out like lateral movement. They are already within the environment. So in my mind, the overlap of the detections that you need to detect insider threats with the detections you need to detect advanced, APTs and attackers who slipped in through 0 days is very, very similar. So in my mind, those detections, most of the time, insider threat detections are behavioral deviation detections because you cannot be looking for a specific file hash when you are looking at insider. Insiders don't need a special file hash. They can walk through the front door pretty easily. And when you're looking to behavioral detections, these same behavioral deviation detections are also extremely powerful when it comes to detecting APTs or attackers who somehow got in through different means. And I know there are surveys out there or studies out there mentioning, like, if you look at the black market or the dark webs, you can already buy VPN access to vast majority of the organizations on the planet. So in my mind, building detections around insider threat is very similar to building detections when assuming breach.
Good point. All right, we are ready to play our next game.
It's time to play a brand new game.
Now, first, actually, let's show the screen with the. Hold this. 2773396. Go to the Kahoot thing. Actually, you know what? Yeah, keep that up there for now. And everyone click on the Kahoot thing. Type in your game pin 2273396. And then put in your thing. I'm not going to play because I actually do know the answers to this. And before we play, I'm also going to explain the game mechanic on this because it's slightly different. But Josh, could you show the screen of what they're playing for? Let's see where everyone's playing for. Take a look at this. This is our new store. If you haven't seen it, it's new. You can't buy anything. You can only win items here. And yes, you can get a onesie, Di. I know Di was mentioning that. That is one of the things you could win. So what happens is if you win, I give you a coupon code. You pick any item from the store. It is yours. Get a fleece. If you already have one of those, get a tumbler. Andrew Aiken has won a bazillion times. He's going to have a whole closet full of CISO series things. But will he win this time? I don't know. All right, go back to what we had before. 2273396. I'm going to give you guys a few more seconds, and I will explain the game mechanic here. Right? What this is called Category Clash is the name of this game. And what we have is we are going to ask a question like, what are the most popular vendors, or what are the biggest companies, or what are the biggest, and you have to order it, and it will say, I believe it's from high to low. So you got to put the biggest, and you're going to have 3 items. And so you'll need to slide back and forth, put the biggest one at the top, and then the second, and then the third. If you don't get all 3 in a row, like you only get 2 out of 3, forget it. You have to get all 3 correct for you to actually get a correct answer on it. So anyone who gets all, I don't know if there's 4 or 5. I can't remember how many are on this, but anyone who gets all of these correct will be astonishing. If you get like 2 or 3 of these, that'll be impressive too. All right. So is everyone ready to play here? Let's find out. I'm going to do the 10-second countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. Get in there. There's a lot more of you there than what we have playing there. 4, 3. Mao's ready to play. 2. Wait, JD just got in. 1. Francisco just got in. And 0. All right, let's start the game. All right, kudos to Richardson and IT Harvard because all their data, it comes from them. They're a great analyst firm that is really paying attention to the whole marketplace. All right. Arrange all answers from high to low. Remember, you have to slide them up and down. And I believe you have 20 seconds per. So you got some time here. You don't have to go too fast. But again, correct answers first. Oh, I think it looks like we have 5 questions. Arrange these industry categories by number of vendors. So which category has the most vendors? Is it data security, GRC, or identity? Just order them on your screen as appropriate. Answers are coming in fast and furious. Whoops. You got 7 seconds. 5, 4. Get them in. GRC. So one person got it correct. 26 of you got it wrong. That's what I told you. This is going to be tough. This will be tough. All right. Way to go, Anna. Everyone else, Edward and everybody else, 0. All right. It's important to get it right. That's a GRC. Look at how many are in GRC, then data security, then identity. That's a lot. All right. Next one. Okay, by which vendor has the most revenue? Is it Microsoft? And by the way, Microsoft, only their security division, not at the whole Microsoft. Microsoft, Fortinet, Palo Alto Networks. And I believe these are the top 3 that have the highest revenue. Palo, Fortinet, and then Microsoft. 6 of you got that correct. Good job. 6. Now, did Anna do it well again? Let's find out. Anna's 2 for 2. Way to go, Anna. Very, very good. I'm very impressed. All right. You got a few more to go. Palo, Fortinet, Microsoft. All right. Third question. Which U.S. states have the most vendors? This is a good one. These are the top 3. You got Texas, California, and New York. Which is 1, which is 2, and which is 3? I feel confident on this one. I think most people are going to get this one right. I don't know. I don't remember, but I think I know what the answers are. And the correct and California, New York, and Texas. Yes, almost half of you got that right. Let's see if Anna did well again on the number 3. Third question. And it's 3 for 3. I'm very impressed. Unfortunately, Edward and Jason, have you gotten any of these right?
No.
Edward,
Got the latest one right.
Look at that, California. Wow, look at that whopping lead over New York and Texas. But that's I didn't realize that Texas was so high. I knew California, New York were 1 and 2 though. All right, let's go to the next one. I think this is our 4th question, and then we'll have one after this. So I think 5 total. Which city has the most vendors per capita? So most vendors per capita. San Francisco, Sunnyvale, Tel Aviv. These are 1 through 3. Tel Aviv, number 1. San Francisco, Sunnyvale. So 9 of you got that right. Edward, Jason, how'd you do?
Got that one right.
Good job. Good job. Good job. All right, let's see how Anna's doing. Anna, you didn't look like you got that one right. But you're still in the lead with 3. So it's 3 out of 4 there. All right. Last one. Look at this. Tel Aviv, San Francisco, then Sunnyvale. So 3 vendors per 10,000 population. All right. Okay, here's our last one. Arrange these security vendors by headcount. So which security vendors have the most employees? So is it CrowdStrike, Palo Alto, or Fortinet? It could be that order or not. Who knows? I realized even knowing the answers, I couldn't play this, or that I at one time knew the answers. I couldn't play this well. So Palo Alto, I think about a lot of people thought probably CrowdStrike was at the top. All right. Very good. Fortinet, I'm actually surprised how big. All right. Let's see who our winner is. Remember, they get to pick a prize. Number 3 out of 5. Anna, was doing so well at the beginning. So who pulled out ahead of you? Nan and number 1 with wait, you both have the same score? How is that possible? You both have we got to give a prize. No, we're giving a prize to both Steve and Nan because you have exactly the same score. I've never seen that before. Steve and Nan, you both get a prize. Make sure you connect with Josh on that. Kudos to both of you on that. Very, very good job all the way around. I'm impressed. Excellent job, everyone. Here, this is what Dwayne. Fortinet should hire at least one person to handle their near weekly RCE exploits. By the way, you know what? Fortinet should sponsor us. They never have. Get on that, Fortinet. But anyway, so Josh, make sure the two of you connect. I don't know why they made one of you the first and the second because you have exactly the same score. So that
Speed,
doesn't seem
maybe
fair.
speed to answer.
No, speed to answer. That's what the score is. That's like if one was faster than the other, one would be 1 point higher than the other because that's how the game is calculated. But I've never actually seen it where people's scores come out perfectly the same. I mean, it can happen, obviously, but it's rare. And it just did happen for that matter. All right. We don't have a lot of time. We have just a few minutes. Let's go. We had a few more questions come in. I want to see what else. Oh, geez. A few more. A ton of questions that came in. Somebody was answering here. How do we play? It wasn't a ton of questions. People putting their answers in the questions, not in the other game. All right. This one, I wonder if this actually happens, Edward. I'm going to throw this on the stage. How do you deal with the idea of just give me what you give everyone else, ignoring the actual needs and just checking the box? Does that actually happen, Edward?
Not really, I think.
Because you think it's more the special snowflake problem. Yes?
Yeah. I think like when you think about special snowflakes, a lot of that, like what it really boils down to is like how you store data, like what kind of tools you have in your environment. What is your definition of benign versus malicious?
Mm-hmm.
What is your definition of important versus not important? Those are stuff that it's very infrequent where we see a security organization being content and happy with just the day zero capability, and more often than not, there is an adaptation process where through a variety of different mechanisms, the security teams will need to work with the technology, whether it's ours or our competitors, to mold it to their environment. Probably the only time I've seen what you described happen is more or less on the service provider side. A service provider might have a similar template of services and preferences across their entire customer base because they might be focused, specifically on hospitals or healthcare. So they have like kind of a content pack to some extent that they could just apply consistently because their client base is very homogeneous.
All right, I'm going to show this on the stage one more time. If you'd like a warm handoff to the people at Drop Zone, this is the last time I'm showing it. It's going to be up there for another few more minutes. I'm going to come back to both of you in just a second, but I'm going to just wrap up the show. Please do it right now. I'm going to give you just a few seconds to do that because I do need to actually wrap up this show. But one thing that I want the two of you to think about when I come back is what question did I not ask that we should have been talking about? Because, God, we could have been talking about a ton of things right here. But go ahead and answer that. So, let me just do this. Whoops. Let me close that. Huge thanks to our sponsor, and that'd be Drop Zone AI. We greatly appreciate you sponsoring this event and also just being a phenomenal sponsor of the CISO series. So thank you, Edward. And thank you, Anne, who's also watching here. Hey, join us this Friday for the Department of No. And actually, Miranda will not be able to join us. She's going to actually join us at a future time. We're going to have Jonna Johnson, actually, because this was a last-minute change. But if you enjoyed Jason this time, he'll be joining us again on Monday for Department of No, which, oh, by the way, we need to change that logo because we have a brand new logo for that. Josh, Make a note of that. We need to change that logo because that's the old logo. We have a brand new cool logo for that. Stick around for a meetup. Nothing anybody has to do. If you're new to this platform and you were on our old platform and we used to have to jump somewhere else, no need to jump anywhere else. Stay exactly where you are. And I want you to stick around for our meetup because it's going to be a lot of fun. Would you like to sponsor a Super Cyber Friday? Guess what? Just email us at info@csoseries.com. We've got one at the tail end of the month. All right. With that being said, let me close this out. And I'm going to start with you, Jason. What is something we should have talked about that we did not discuss on the SOC workflow?
I think it's controlling slop. I think the word was mentioned in the past hour, but that's a huge problem. Some people will put a prompt in that's very general. They'll get a bunch of slop out and then they'll use that answer. So I think agentic AI and AI is an extension of my SOC workforce and my cybersecurity program and my analysts, but controlling that slop is very much needed because the so what factor is tied to that slop, meaning if I need to tell an executive something, I need to get right to the point. I can't have slop in that.
That is a very good point. Excellent point. All right, Edward, what was something we should have been discussing that we did not discuss in today's show?
Yeah, one question I get asked a lot is when, as a security team, you're evaluating AI SOC vendors, like how much should you wait on what can this actually do today versus what this might do eventually? Because the reality is we are still in the early days of this whole technology. I think for every single startup or vendor in this space, the capabilities that are delivered today is still a tiny fraction of what it will eventually become. So my recommendation to security teams is, hey, when you are selecting a vendor, you are more or less selecting a long-term partner. So first and foremost, you need to make sure what this vendor delivers today actually has a concrete business ROI. You don't want to buy technology purely based on roadmap and PowerPoint slides. But at the same time, in addition to ensuring the vendor can actually deliver a positive, meaningful ROI today, is you also want to look at where they are going. Like, are they going to build a SIM? Are they going to, become an MDR? Because when you select a vendor, you are placing a lot of organizational capital on this vendor. So you need to make sure the vendor both delivers ROI with what they already have today and where they are going lines up with your own vision of where you envision your stock or business will become.
Now we talk about this being a partner. Hold on. Let me throw that poll thing back up again so people can take advantage. If you would like to be a partner with the nice people at Dropzone AI, we can make the introduction. Go ahead. If you would like a warm handoff, respond to that now. All right. We have 3 minutes. I'm going to throw one more question out at you right here. And that question is this one. Show on stage. Whoops. Is there an external stand for SOC SLAs, service level agreements, that CISOs can use as a benchmark to justify resources? Does that exist, Jason?
One of the things that I found recently was SOC CMM. I think there's SLAs embedded within that. That's what I'm looking at towards, hey, where are we right now with our SOC and where can we go? And can Dropzone and other vendors like Dropzone help us get there?
All right. And anything you've seen with SOC SLAs yourself, Edward?
Yeah, in terms of standards, I do know a number of certifications, like deep in the weeds. It talks about 24/7 SOC. I think that's a very big checkbox in a lot of security certifications. With regards to SLAs, I'm not aware of any certifications that specifically spell out, whether it should be 10 minutes versus 30 minutes. But I do know, like similar to vulnerabilities, when like your business is partnering with other businesses, sometimes there is a question within the security questionnaires that's like, hey, what's your SLA on like critical alerts? But from my perspective, I haven't seen an SLA requirement on the mediums and lows, which is, I think, an area where we as an industry should continue to improve on.
Okay. Thank you very much, Edward. Thank you to Dropzone. Thank you to Jason as well. If you love Jason, you got to come to our show on Monday. By the way, the Monday show is on YouTube. So if you go to youtube.com/CISO series, you can actually click the notify me button that'll remind you when it goes live, and you can join and there's a discussion in that, and we bring your conversation to the live show. It's a ton of fun. It's a way to kick off your week in cyber. as well. So it's kind of different vibe than this show, if you will. We don't play any games on that one. So my apologies for that. It's also half the length of this show as well. But it doesn't have the fun meetup, which we're going to have right this second. And you're going to stick around. Don't go anywhere. So huge thanks to Jason Shockey. Huge thanks to Edward Wu. Thank you to our audience as well. And thank you to our producer, Josh, who made sure this whole damn thing ran so beautifully. Josh, take us out. Let's start the meetup. Everyone stick around. And by the way, I want you all to get into one room. I'll explain when we do that. We're all going to get into one room because we get into a bunch of breakout rooms. All come to one. See you there.